Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and keep watching more details. Joan Vassos admits retro senior prom is the perfect first date. The Golden Bachelorette Joan Vassos got to meet her 24 men last week during the inaugural episode of the show. While she had to cut ties with 4, she still has 20 men to speed date over the next few weeks. Unquestionably, she has many big decisions ahead, but she admits that having a throwback to senior prom was the perfect first date. Joan Vassos has her work cut out for her. Although Joan Vassos' journey has just begun, she is off to a great start getting to know her guys. Undeniably, she has a wonderful group of guys to pick from. While there are a few red flags that viewers have spotted, the crew seems to have fun. However, it is too early to tell the men's true colors. Undeniably, Joan has her work cut out for her to determine who she will take with her to the end. In a preview for the newest episode of The Golden Bachelorette, the seniors are having the time of their lives returning to a throwback senior prom. Retro prom heaven. During the upcoming episode of The Golden Bachelorette, the preview teases a great first group date. But Bachelor Nation didn't spare any effort when setting up Joan Vassos' retro senior prom. Since most of the Golden Bachelorette men would have gone to prom in the 80s, Bachelor Nation had them set up in a decked-out gymnasium with balloons, silver streamers, retro punch bowls, and powder blue suits. Among the men vying for her time and attention on the spectacular throwback date were Mark Anderson, Bob Kilroy, Jonathan Roan, Jordan Heller, Gary Levingston, Keith Gordon, and Guy Gansert. Each is moving and grooving to the music. They posted throwback photos from each of the attendees' original prom, showing a classic recreation of their memory lane. Each of the photos shows a glimpse at the men in their prime and showcases some of their personality. Furthermore, Joan and Jonathan connect over his past photo and how young he appears. She asks how old he is there, and he guesses he was a sophomore. But they also had a photo set for the guys to capture their prom date with Joan. Although it was a fast and furious evening, Joan seemed to enjoy revisiting the past while she searched for her future love. Joan Vassos has a big choice to make. However, it wasn't all fun and games. Not only is winning over Joan's heart part of the mission, but these men are duking it out to gain the coveted title of Golden Bachelorette Prom King from their magical lady. Furthermore, Jess Palmer gets everyone excited, saying, "Thank you so much for being here to celebrate the first ever Golden Prom." Additionally, he ignites the competition. "We are gonna have a lot of fun here today, but of course who tonight will be crowned Prom King?" Undeniably, Joan Vassos will have a tough decision, but Gary is ready to party. He says, "I'm gonna just let loose out there." While the men are grooving on the dance floor, Mark Anderson is the bad boy that snuck in a flask to spike the punch. However, Joan Vassos doesn't seem to mind. She even seems to become his accomplice in the matter. Joan Vassos admits retro senior prom is the perfect first date. Although the guys had to split their time with Joan Vassos, they seemed to have fun anyway. The preview shows Joan getting photos with Mark Anderson, Guy Gansert, Jordan Heller, and so much more. But most importantly, Joan had a blast getting to know each of the men a little better. She says, "We're having such a good time, it's just like the perfect first date." Joan Vassos never thought her first date would look like a scene from a movie set in the 1980s, with neon lights, teased hair, and vintage beats echoing in the air. But there she was, standing in front of an old high school gymnasium that had been transformed into a time capsule, a retro-themed senior prom for adults who, like her, had long passed their high school years but still cherished the nostalgia of those carefree days. The invitation had come from an unexpected source. Marcus King, a colleague she'd only spoken to a handful of times. He was quiet, observant, and perhaps a little mysterious, not the type she expected to whisk her away for a night of dancing under a glittering disco ball. Yet, when he casually mentioned the idea of attending the local retro senior prom fundraiser, something about it struck her as charming, playful, decidedly different. And when he flashed her that crooked smile, one eyebrow raised in quiet challenge, she found herself saying yes before her mind could catch up with her heart. The night arrived and Joan stood in front of her mirror, laughing at her reflection. Her hair, teased to perfection with the help of far too much hairspray, stood in a wild cloud around her head. Her dress was a vision in vibrant teal satin, poofy sleeves and all. She looked like a character from an old John Hughes film, and somehow she loved it. It was ridiculous, over the top, and unapologetically fun. When Marcus pulled up in front of her apartment in an immaculate vintage Mustang, Joan's heart did a little flip. He was dressed in a sharp, powder blue tuxedo, complete with a ruffled shirt, and he looked every bit the part of an 80s prom king. The awkward tension that sometimes accompanied a first date was nowhere to be found. Instead, there was laughter. Light, unrestrained, the kind of laughter that makes you forget you're nervous. "Wow," she breathed as she slid into the passenger seat. "You went all out." "You too," Marcus replied, eyes twinkling as he glanced over at her. "You look amazing." The gymnasium, once just a plain building at the edge of town, had been transformed. Colored lights twinkled through the windows, illuminating the dance floor, where couples were already swaying to the nostalgic tunes of Cyndi Lauper, Prince, and Madonna. The decorations were a perfect blend of cheesy and heartfelt. Streamers hung from the ceiling in a kaleidoscope of colors, balloons filled every corner, and a giant banner welcomed them to Senior Prom, Rewind Edition. Joan couldn't stop smiling as they walked in. It was as if they'd stepped into a time machine. The scent of punch and popcorn filled the air, mingling with the sweet tones of vintage hits. People of all ages, dressed in their finest retro gear, were laughing, dancing, and reminiscing about their high school days. It was a room filled with memories, both real and imagined. Marcus, always the quiet observer, took her hand and led her to the dance floor without hesitation. Joan wasn't a great dancer, she had 2 left feet on a good day. But tonight she didn't care. The music was loud, the atmosphere electric, and with Marcus's steady hand guiding her, she felt free to just let go. They twirled, stumbled, and laughed, their awkwardness turning into something magical under the glow of the mirrored ball spinning lazily above. As the night wore on, Joan found herself wrapped in a bubble of contentment. Marcus was unexpectedly charming, with dry humor and a soft voice that made her lean in just to catch every word. They shared stories about their high school experiences, swapping tales of mischief and unrequited crushes. Joan talked about her first car, a hand-me-down that barely survived her senior year, and Marcus recounted how he'd been roped into joining the school band, despite having no musical talent whatsoever. Their laughter mingled with the music, creating a harmony all their own. And then, as if the universe had scripted it, a slow song began to play, a classic ballad that made the room pause. Joan felt a flutter in her chest as Marcus offered his hand once more, his eyes soft and inviting. She took it, her breath catching as he pulled her close. The world outside seemed to disappear as they swayed together, their movements slow and gentle, their hearts in perfect rhythm with the music. "I wasn't expecting this to be so perfect," Joan whispered as they danced, her cheek resting against his shoulder. "Me neither," Marcus replied softly, "but I had a feeling you'd like it." Joan smiled, closing her eyes as she allowed herself to melt into the moment. The warmth of his hand in hers, the steady beat of his heart against her cheek, the soft hum of the music, it was all so simple, yet so deeply perfect. She felt something shift inside her, a quiet realization that maybe, just maybe, this night wasn't about nostalgia or a funny theme. Maybe it was about connection, about finding joy in the unexpected and allowing herself to be vulnerable, to feel something new. As the final notes of the song lingered in the air, Joan lifted her head to look at Marcus. He smiled, that same crooked, charming smile that had first drawn her in. It was then that she realized she didn't want the night to end, not yet. "How about we ditch the gym and go for a drive?" Marcus suggested, his eyes sparkling with mischief. Joan grinned. "I thought you'd never ask." With one last glance at the twinkling lights of the prom, they slipped out into the night, laughter and the distant echo of 80s music trailing behind them.